Welcome to today's live session. My name is Taylor Siebert with Striv Education. And if you joined us last time, you know our other two co-hosts here, Rob and Shanda. Thank you guys for being with us. It is summertime. Last time we chatted, you were still finishing up school. How's it going?
Fantastic. I was just saying before we came on, I spent a couple hours on the golf course with my golf team this summer. So as all busy teachers know, while it is summer, it's not really summer. We're finishing up yearbooks and out with our teams and already working on next year's thing. So this kind of fits right in with what most educators do anyway. And that is we're still working.
Totally
but it's
agree.
nice to be at our pace.
Yeah. Summertime is made for looking over curriculum and lesson plans. It's okay, and catch up on our reading that we don't get a chance to do during the school year. So that's a nice thing. And we go at our own pace. That's a great thing about summertime. But yeah, we're always still working, aren't we?
Yes.
Every educator knows there's no 3 months off.
And that is exactly what you posted this morning in Strive Education
Yes.
in the community. And we're excited to get this launched and continue to work with educators. We've got a great crew that has already said yes to join Strive Education, get access to the community, the resources, and the curriculum. Rob and Shanda, since they've gotten out of school, have been hard at work of gathering and curating all the things that they have put together. But we still understand there's probably some questions you have of what is digital media education. Maybe you're a teacher watching this, or maybe an administrator, and you're wondering what's kind of involved in this. What does a digital media class or curriculum actually look like? And that's what today's live session is about, is what is it? What's inside of it? And first, I asked Rob and Shanda to each kind of give a description of what digital media education means to them. Last time we talked about why. And this week, we're talking about what. And so I'd love for you, Shanda, to kind of share your perspective of what digital media looks like for you.
Okay, well, the biggest piece for me is to make sure that we are having quality digital citizens. The kids are surrounded all the time by a digital world, but we have to be thinking about what that means to be a great digital citizen, showing etiquette online, not keeping themselves out of trouble, and using what is out there correctly. So we have to not only be able to analyze what's happening, but also then to take what we've learned there and then create it. And how do we take that and teach kids how to think a little bit differently than maybe a traditional education? How do we tell stories? How do we think about the effect of what digital media does to people? And just to be a good communicator, really.
Absolutely. And how about you, Rob?
And I agree with kind of what Shanda said there. That's the building block we have. And then when we take that building block, we want to start building projects in the areas of digital media. And there's multiple areas of digital media. What we focus on the high school is like graphic design, audio production, video production, website maybe design. We don't quite go into the coding area website. Now that's kind of, that's more STEM area. And then show students of how we're using that in our society, because this is a fast growing field. We're on our smartphones all the time. We need to showcase it. And one of the first things I always tell students is, ask, how are you going to use this in the classroom in the real world? If we can't explain it, why should we be teaching it? And we have so many examples on your smartphones of how to do it, and videos and graphics, and how people can create a business from this. And that's what we kind of want to show to students of all the different areas of digital media, and then find the one area that you excel in and start creating and telling the stories in that regard.
Rob, how much time do you spend? I know you mentioned digital media isn't just about making fun videos and graphics, but how to develop them as actual skills that are marketable in the workplace. And I know we have tons of examples. I think that's our next live session, is how it's going to be applied in the workplace. And, the story you just told about your son. But how do you explain that to, especially in an intro to digital media class, which is the curriculum that you're getting with Strive Education to begin? How do you explain that to them right off the bat?
Best thing to try to do is try to explain stories. The kids come in at digital media classes, and they're very adverse on things like TikTok and Instagram, and there's so many apps and many of those kids have started making apps and memes, so they know that. And I don't toss that away and say, hey, there's a lot of fun in this, and there's there's nothing wrong in creating something fun, like, you know, you do in a woodworking class. We want to have some fun, but there's and then I transitioned to show like content creators who are making a living and doing these. You know, here's some examples of some content creators, not just a viral video that got lucky. But, you know, the one I would talk about, and we've had this discussion, is Dude Perfect. Those guys are a great example of something small, posting some videos, and then got larger. You know, and that's what I really try to focus on, not just social media influencers. I kind of stay away from those people because that just gets lucky. But what can you create? Can you create an advertising video? Can you create a marketing video? I'm here in Kearney. UNK just put up video boards for their athletic program. So we need content creators to put that content on there. And you guys are the content creators. So you can get paid to do these things or get an internship in college, maybe pay your way through college. And so just showing examples of how to do these things instead of just making fun videos. So that's why I got to show them.
Yeah, Shanda, how about you at the middle school level? How do you get that across to middle schoolers?
Exactly the same thing, just having the opportunity to tell their particular stories. 13-year-olds don't have a huge filter yet. And so, yeah, really. So it's really teaching them how to filter quality and taking it away from the whole TikTok, you know, dimension that we're in right now. But the same type of thing that Rob has said, that this could be a future career. And, you know, why are you thinking that you have to wait till you're 18? Why not when you're 15, start your own business where you're out filming quinceañeras or filming weddings? Even some of our kiddos who are doing photography are taking senior pictures and practicing with their friends, and they're 17 and they have businesses where they're taking, you know, doing senior pictures and such here, or family pictures. So I really tied a lot into the family also, of who in your family is documenting your family's history. You know, if you take a vacation to Kansas City, if you go to Chicago, if you go to Europe, you know, who's taking those photos, who's taking those videos, who's making those stories for your family. So if anything, it doesn't come out of it business wise, at least you have it for your own family, you know, to kind of go back that way. But we definitely talk a lot about quality.
Yes.
And, you know, the pre-production, production, and post-production, and the amount of time that it really takes to do quality. And then to be able to look at what other professionals do and compare what we are doing. And so that's been a really big aspect of what we're doing with digital media, is we have to first start personal, like you do anything, and then build out from there. And, you know, we've got so many examples of kids who think that college is the only route, and college is a fantastic route to go for lots of things, but it doesn't have to be the only pathway that you take to finding a really great career and a really fulfilling life.
Right. You know, Shannon, I'm going to jump on that. Same thing as you said is, you know, students, if you get a good camera, but even then your smartphone is but it's all come down to I want to teach students, you know, you guys do things on your phone is great, but if this is an interest to you, the quality matters. You know, look at the production, look at the sound quality of this. And we talk about that when I go to audio. I use different sound qualities of just a microphone, a good microphone, a lavalier. So production quality matters. And I said, that's what the essence of this class is. Let's make your already skills that you guys like, let's just make them better.
Yeah.
So you can possibly monetize, because if it's really poorly made, there's so many out there, they'll just click on the next group and they'll find something else that is well made. You want to be in the well made group.
Yes.
And that will stand out, right?
Yes.
With the amount of volume of content, quality is much
Quality key.
better approach than quantity, right? And
Yes.
I actually listened to Dude Perfect, mentioned this, and I think maybe the webinar we did in February, we talked about Dude Perfect. Got a chance to hear them last summer talk about it. And when they started, I think it was about 10 plus years ago on YouTube, a lot of the YouTubers that started when they did are not around anymore because they went the quantity route.
Right.
And they made a decision early on that they were going to go quality versus quantity. so that they could sustain and actually build a business creating content. And I think that's a real important message for students right now in these classes to understand that, because the world is telling them quantity, 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 and we're getting a bunch of content creators who are burning out. And
Yes.
that's not healthy, and that's not smart on our part as trying to educate them how to develop these skills. So let's go ahead and dive into, if you guys could go through, and let's go to Rob here on this to start.
Okay.
What is included in the curriculum that you guys are providing here with Strive Education, as far as the overall just kind of high level units? So if an admin is watching this, or a teacher who's interested in this, and they're not really sure what you have included in your digital media curriculum, if you could run through that for you at the high
Yes.
school level, and then Shanda will follow and kind of go through her approach. And we've talked a lot about that, and both of your curriculums really complement each other.
Yes. Okay. I'll go through the high school. My intro to media class, what we start from is, in essence, what is media and how it connects to society. And we go through a few lessons and just kind of introduce them. Say, here's what we're creating, and here's also media and society of how relevant it is. And that goes back to us. Why are we teaching this? What's the relevancy? And the students know it, but we need some clarifications. And there's some great data and research that shows that. And then we move into fair use and copyright standards, which is what we have to cover. It's a state standard. And those are just the laws and the rules of what you can use, what you can't use, graphics, graphics, movies, clips, audio clips. And then we move into like the project based. The first unit we always go through in ours is we do a simple website, and we try to use Wix. Man, it didn't quite work for us. We kind of use Google Sites. And I use that as an introduction from the students. They kind of introduce themselves to me by creating a personal website. But I've also seen this in a Google site, and I've seen some schools do it, and they use Wix a little bit more time, is use that as a digital portfolio, is where the students can upload their graphics onto their website and then explain and go through an analysis procedure, their graphics or their videos or their audios, and then talk about have some analysis process with their website, their Google site. And then we move into graphic design. And as I say, this is an introductory course. And I tell my students, we teach on the block at Kearney High. But we can always modify everything if you're a regular schedule. And so I spend roughly 2 weeks in each process. And I say, guys, this is an introductory area. So I'm going to introduce you to some basic graphic designs, elements of design, some basic graphic design projects, how to use layers, brushes. Again, just it's a basic in graphic design, but we create some really great things. And then we move into audio. And then in audio design, we again about approximately 2 weeks. We talk about the basics of how to put a podcast together. We talk about sound quality. There's a difference of sound quality of using a microphone, using a lavalier mic, and using a shotgun mic or no mic at all. And we go through that and explain to kids that's kind of part of the quality. And we have some different projects we do there. We do a podcast. We do a project called a soundscape. I think Taylor might be able to put that up there. And I can tell a little bit about that. And then we also do what's called a Foley project, which is a kind of a sound design. And then we move into our video production, which we talk about the basics, shot composition, how to frame up a shot, how to use your camera correctly. Also, sometimes just learning the software, because software is very complex. And so it's some of the basics. It's a 9-week course to learn the basics of digital media. And I use this as it's introductory, because after that one, then we can go into more advanced levels. Like in my school, we're lucky enough that if you like Photoshop or graphic design, we have a graphic designs class from another teacher. So I tell students, if you like it, go to that class. If you like video production, then you go to my Media Productions 1 and Media Productions 2 courses, where we go into a lot more in-depth shot composition, storytelling, pre-production, production, and post-production areas there. So that's what the course is. It's 2 to 3 weeks, several projects, and we can always modify everything if you want to go to a certain area because of the technology that your school has. But that's what that's what I've created in that intro to media project So I kick it over to Shannon now to talk about her middle school one.
Yeah, one
Or,
second.
sorry, Taylor.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I did have a question.
Yes, sir.
One thing that teachers continue to ask is equipment. What type of
Yes.
equipment? I don't want to dive into that, but are you training and teaching students how to use equipment alongside of this, or what does that look like in your classroom?
Yes, we do. We do talk about the training and equipment. If I said I'll go back to the Photoshop is mainly we use the Photoshop and we stress the basics. The most equipment again too is the audio is talking about microphones, difference in microphones, and usually we use the snowball mics a lot, and for podcasting, but we do those for other elements too, and especially for video production, we go through the cameras. We do this, just the basic settings, and then this course, because it's only about 2 to 2.5 weeks in video production. We talk about just the basic settings, how to set up a camera properly, white balance, exposure, things like that. Because usually where the focus is on composition and creation of emotions, and then that go into more depth and detail later on of basic camera settings. That's kind of more an advanced level there because you want to get the first basics down.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, let's go over to Shanda. And if you want to kind of run through what your approach is with digital media, which is slightly different at the middle school level and based on all of your experience.
Okay. So we also start off with kind of just what is digital media. And I really talk about also with middle school students about the basics of communication so that they have the understanding, since they are born into the digital world where we don't need to see your top of your forehead all the time and those types of things. Just very basics of eye contact, emotion when you are communicating. And we go through the whole digital realm from caveman days all the way kind of through. And then also the same thing is just a kind of a timeline of using any type of a digital type of computer, that type of thing, again, in history. So we kind of go through all that. We go through a lot of Creative Commons licensing, because the biggest misconception that I find is if it's in Google and it's there for me and I can make it play, I can use it. So I spend a couple of days for sure, 2 to 3, 4 days even, going over Creative Commons licensing and walking them through what that looks like when you're searching out music. You can't use your favorite song, even if you love Bon Jovi. There's my plug. You can't use that in your projects if you do not have written consent from the publisher. So those are really big kind of things. The same thing with photography when we get down to more of our digital print and graphics. You can't just go on and take things that don't belong to you. So we talk about using the attributions and making sure that you cite that on any page you use, or you say it out loud. And I do the same thing in my class when I'm showing the graphics that I found through some Creative Commons types of things and Common Sense Media. I say out loud in my class, you see right here, this has a Creative Commons licensing. I'm allowed to use it in an educational setting. I can't sell it, but this is where it's at. I hit that really hard to start with because I think it solves a lot of problems as we continue the rest of the class. And my class is a 9-week class, 45 minutes a day. It can be stretched, obviously, if you have a semester class. My Broadcast 2 class is a semester-long class. So you can take this introductory part and make it work for you, whether you have it as a club, after-school program, a block schedule like at Kearney High. But for me, it's every 9 weeks I get new students. So that's how we run it. My second big unit is the terminology. This is like a foreign language for lots of people, myself included, when I first got started, that when you would say, very simple terms, pan, tilt, high angles, low angles, neutral, tracking, all those types of things, they have no idea. It's completely a foreign language. So we spend several days just doing the ABCs of broadcast and the ABCs of digital media. We do throw in Strive specific terms because obviously, while this is a digital media class, these are the same kiddos who are doing my Strive streams. And so I've got to have them trained up that when I say something as we are producing a game or a concert, they know what I'm talking about. Then I get into, from there, the basics of composition, so that when we get a camera in hand, We actually shoot some silent movies and some things that I don't even worry about teaching audio, because we are just looking at how you set up a shot and the different varieties of things you can do with those projects. We talk about sequencing. And then from there, I get into audio. And again, each of these units that we have are for what works for us. So, what is working at the middle school level for me may need to be more or less time than what Rob does at the high school, simply just because of development of kids and how quickly they take to things. So, I do audio for about 2 weeks. And that's where we get into adding all sorts of things. And again, hitting up again, once again, copyright free music. And there's so much that's available for kids to use that's copyright free, and or use GarageBand and create their own. So that's super fun. We also do get into equipment use and safety along with lighting. I just think it's super important, again, that if we're starting off in the middle school level and they're going to progress to the high school, to do it right the first time. There's no reason to, wait on those types of things. So we get into the equipment usage, safety, setup. And again, I don't ever want to make this about equipment, because it's not. Our school happens to be one-to-one with iPads, but we also have our nice Canon cameras that we shoot with the tripods. I do let the kids use their phones. My admin may not like that so much, but it's just the reality is that's what they have in their hand. So I'll let them use their phones for different things too. And that works very well. We get into some green screen items. Our 6th unit is the digital print and graphics, and that works really well with my yearbook class also, because I do have some kids that overlap. So we work on photography. Then we can work on Canva using, again, free apps. I don't pay for hardly anything, some of the Photoshop stuff, but most everything that we use is free. And so we get into the digital print, the graphics, all of that. And then we get into, once we kind of have all of that, our 7th kind of week in class is the storytelling. And we spend a solid 2 weeks here about how you plan, the amount of time it takes to edit, storytelling, again, pre-production, production, and post-production. We do our fun little spy movie, which has been really great. And we get into doing like hype videos, again, how you take what we've learned and make it into something that's useful for your school or for yourself. And then we wrap up at the end with the career exploration, and kind of more like, what would an internship look like if you went to work for several different companies, or if you created your own production company with the skills you have, what can you do next? And then depending on the length of our quarter, sometimes we have those quarters that are 42 days and sometimes they're 49 days. We have some kind of leeway in there. We've done passion projects as well, something that they went off and said, hey, I really loved this aspect of class. Can I spend 2 or 3 days doing more with it? And my answer is always yes, absolutely you can. And that's where, as a teacher, I've actually learned a ton, is when I call them the passion project days, where somebody has, Mrs. Hall, how do you do this? And I'm like, I have no idea. Let's figure it out. And 2 days later, they're teaching the entire class something, and I have picked up a ton of knowledge in the last 8 years, just in those timeframes when I give them the ability to do that. So I highly recommend that while we have a curriculum for you and we have these units set up, please, 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 at the end, spend some time letting the kids go out and watch YouTube, because again, it always comes down to time, but they tend to have a little more time, and that's where we can learn just as much from them.
Fantastic. Yes, I love that advice. Sometimes you get into a class and you're just routine of doing everything that the teacher wants you to do, but to give them control. I think that's the beautiful part about digital media, right? Is that they get to create, and you give them that and allow them to be empowered through digital media. That's our vision. That's our goal, is try to equip teachers so that you can empower students through digital media. And both of you are doing that really, really well. Love that. Thank you guys for going through that. I think that's really important to understand what is included and really what digital media education looks like from your perspective. And both of you are awesome, because you are educators and have been lifelong educators. You're like, I want feedback. I want feedback. Just like you get that in the classroom. Now you're developing this for a teacher, and you want that feedback from the teacher. So we want that feedback. I'm the same way. That's why all three of us work really well together. But I'd love for us to kind of wrap up with maybe an example of a lesson plan. Rob, We'll
Okay.
start with you, and then Shanna is going to share one. I've got the soundscape one that I'll pull up. So I'll put you in solo mode, and you can kind of talk about the soundscape lesson plan.
Okay. Well, this is kind of a basic lesson I have when we talk about audio. And so the objective is to experiment with different secondary sounds. And this is, secondary sounds are always so important when it comes to audio or even video production. And we talk about secondary sounds, on a hype video, when you hear the ball go through the hoop, you kind of add that hoop sound or the crowd sound, or a football hype video, you find some pads clicking, or pads hitting each other. And that's what I give the example of. This is a secondary sounds. And so what I do is I give these students here is, this is the first project, I will give them a picture, and I have roughly 20 to 30 to 40 pictures, and we go through them and we kind of talk about them in class. And then I said, okay, guys, now your job is to create a scene from this picture, like in a movie. Here's the example there, says is this scene is, and then they have to write a scene. So the student was handed this picture, then this is a scene that they would have to write up for me. And it says here, then unknown persons approaches the house where our family is staying in. It's starting to get dark outside and a storm is gathering in the far distance. You can feel the front starting to move through the woods. The stranger approaches the cabin and knocks. End of scene. So the student had to write that scene up, and then he turns that into me. And so I visualize it. Okay, I can see that. I can read that. Now I want to hear it. What sounds would you add into as a director? The wind, the rustling, is there birds, they're chirping, the front, what's the sound of the person on the ground sound like? And we've used different examples from YouTube that shows it here. The sound engineers add these sounds in. They don't usually take them from the actual, when the movie's filmed, they add them in. And I was sort of like a lightsaber of Star Wars. I'm a Star Wars geek fan. They add these, and that's secondary sounds. And so that's what they named it. That's what this project is. So you create your scene and then add the sounds, and then at the end we put the scene up, and I read it, their synopsis, and then we listen to it. And the kids like, that was so cool. And it's really been a great project, just for sound effects and secondary sounds.
Yeah, I love that project.
Yep.
I was imagining myself in that scene right there.
Because that said you have to imagine it, and you get a football scene and say, okay, guys, you have a picture of a football. What's the play? What happened? And they have to explain it. And then what sounds would you hear in that? And you get some, of course, you get high school teenagers. They get some weird imaginations.
I can't imagine.
Yeah,
I've been in your classroom.
It's a fun project, and they get a little different. Let's just say that.
But they remember it, and it makes an impact. Yeah,
they do, and they have them all. So it's been a great project.
All right, how about you, Shanda? Is there a lesson that sticks out to you, an example that has had a real good impact in your classroom?
Yes, we have a project called The Door, and we talk about the stereotypical every scary horror movie. Like you're sitting at your desk and you hear a sound. You're like, oh, what's that? And then you go to the door toward the sound, obviously.
Yeah.
And your hand is shaking as you're reaching for the doorknob, and you open it slowly and the door creaks, and then, whatever's on the other side of the scary door. It can be what's in the scary shed. It can be what's around the corner. Any of those types of things. So we talk about this as a sequencing project. What would you see in any typical horror scene when you know something bad is just about to happen? And so we'll talk about, you have to show a close-up of somebody's hand that's trembling as they're reaching for the doorknob. You have to show a super close-up of their eyes bugging out. There has to be scary music in the background to build suspense. The door must creak when it opens. So it's kind of putting all of those together. We do a low angle shot, or a neutral shot where their feet are walking very slowly. They're walking back and forth, or even just saying, who's there? Hello? Like, why are you saying hello to the scary sound? And the kids just die laughing when I'm describing this to them about, oh my gosh, every typical horror movie, why do they go toward the sound? Go away, be smart here. And then they've had it to where whenever they open the door, this is where, again, the kids' creativity comes in. They get to decide what's on the other side of the door or inside of the shed or around the corner. Build up that suspense. And many times they pick something really funny. I've had everything from somebody dressed in a banana costume to a doll on the ground to somebody in a gorilla head. Like, it has gone all over the place. Typically, it's a funny surprise and it's not really anything scary. But that one has worked super well because there's so many takeoffs that we can work on, either sequencing rather, cutaway shots, different angles. I've done completely where the only thing they could have was just adding scary music and the creaking door, and that's it. No dialogue whatsoever. And then I've had kids that came back, as I said before, with like their passion project, and they've actually wanted to write a script. And so it's developed that way. But that one has been super great. I've challenged them before to say you have to tell the story in 6 shots. That's all you get is 6 shots. So that particular one has so many takeoffs. I've used it every year for 8 years in
Wow.
some way, shape, or form. I've changed it so it's not boring for me. Sometimes it's, what's behind the scary bookshelf in the library, those types of things. Or I've given them the sounds they have to use, and then they have to put that together, or else I've given them as an editing project. I've shot it for them in out of order with things that should never be in there. Like, why do you have a scene from the locker that has nothing to do with the story? So they have to work on, again, sticking to a focus and not getting completely off topic with just random footage. So
I
that's one.
love that. There's some really cool things that can happen with that. You're teaching them good editing skills as well, of
Mhm.
way the shot belong at a basic level to get them to start to think that way. That's really cool.
And Taylor, I want to interject.
Yeah.
Things like what Shanda said and what I did. I use for mine. I use the Adobe products. We talk about technology,
Yeah.
because we're schools in Adobe. Some schools are not, and if you're not, I'm pretty sure Audacity, which is a free program, can do exactly what I did. It can create the sequencing, and I'm pretty sure GarageBand can do the same
Mhm.
thing. I don't haven't used GarageBand in a long time,
Yep.
and all the sound effects that I use and I show my students, I come from free sites on the internet that we find. So, and then talk about people at cost and equipment. There's free programs out there and there's free sites. And Shanda, same thing here. A lot of things you do. If you don't have cameras, phones. It's a good, again, yes, it annoys the administration. The kids are filming, but if it's all structured, they can do these things, and the programs are there that they can find them. Usually there's iMovie in the school always. So if technology, you think you're limited by technology, we can help you. There are programs out there to help you find, because we're not buying these things. I don't spend any money in my sound effects. So
Yeah, it's a great. Go ahead and follow up there, Shanda.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say is you're Adobe, but like I said, we're one-to-one iPads, but
yeah,
it's all the free stuff.
yeah,
And so
it is. You can
it
do
makes it
everything.
fantastic.
Yeah, we can do almost every. We rely on the Adobe because it's there. So why not? But if you don't have that, there's plenty of things out there for free that you can do all of these things on and still create.
And that's to kind of segue the value that you're getting of
Yes.
joining Strive Education and getting access to not only curriculum but the minds behind it and the community around it. So thank you both so much. I know summer is busy, so we're just over 30 minutes here, which went by really fast. At about 15 minutes, I'm like, we're going to wrap up. You guys did a fantastic job. And I always love these conversations. And I hope those of you who are watching live and also watching the replay got a ton of value. If you are interested in getting access to the curriculum that you just heard about and what is included in this digital media education package, not only the curriculum, but the community and other resources that you're going to get all year long, you can go and learn more about that and get early access before the school year starts as they're developing that. The actual curriculum will be loaded in probably in about a month or so in July before you get back to school. And you can go to strive.education to get more information and get a hold of us. So again, thank you both, Rob and Shanda. I put up their Twitter handles there. You can follow them on Twitter over the summer, connect with us, and we would love to help you with your digital media education approach if you're a teacher or an admin, and start empowering your students through digital media. It's really, really important. And that's why we're doing it. That's why we believe in it and want to get it into as many schools and in as many teachers as we possibly can. So have a great day, both of you. We'll see you next time.
See you.